Judge Blackwood sighed as he looked at the papers on his desk. Another busy day in court. The room was large, with wooden walls and rows of seats. People talked quietly as they waited. Some looked worried, others bored. The judge had been doing this job for 20 years, and he thought he had seen everything. "Next case," he called out in a tired voice. The bailiff, a tall woman named Ruth, stood up straight. "Case number 347, Your Honor. United Earth versus Nathan Collins." Judge Blackwood put on his glasses and read the file. "Breaking into government. Computer systems, bring him in." The doors at the back of the court opened. Two security officers walked in with a young man between them. He looked about 16 or 17. He wore blue jeans and a gray shirt that was too big for him. His brown hair needed a cut and his face had a few pimples. He looked like any normal high school kid. "This is the hacker?" Judge Blackwood asked, not hiding his surprise. "He's just a boy." Nathan stood in front of the judge's bench. He did not look scared. In fact, he seemed calm, almost bored. "Nathan Collins, you are charged with breaking into government computer systems and stealing classified information. How do you plead?" the judge asked. "Not guilty," Nathan said. His voice was steady and clear. Judge Blackwood frowned. "Where is your lawyer, young man?" "I don't have one." "I will defend myself," Nathan replied. The judge laughed. Several people in the court laughed too. Even the prosecutor, Mrs. Bell, smiled a little. "You think you can defend yourself? Against federal charges? Do you know how serious this is?" Judge Blackwood asked. "I do, Your Honor," Nathan said. "You could go to prison for 10 years. This isn't a school game," the judge said. Nathan looked directly at the judge. "I understand the charges and the possible punishment. I still want to defend myself." "Have it your way," Judge Blackwood said. He shook his head. Kids these days thought they knew everything because they could use computers. "Mrs. Bell, please present your case." The prosecutor stood up. She was in her 40s with short black hair and a dark blue suit. She had sent many criminals to jail and rarely lost a case. "Your Honor, the facts are clear. On June 12th, our security systems detected an unauthorized entry into the government database. The hacker accessed files related to national security. Our tech team traced the attack to the defendant's home computer. When officers searched his house, they found the stolen files on his devices. The evidence is solid. This was not a prank, but a serious crime that put our country at risk." Mrs. Bell showed pictures of Nathan's computer and copies of the files that were found. She called a witness, Agent Frank Wilson, who had led the search of Nathan's home. "We found everything we needed in his bedroom," Agent Wilson said. "The kid didn't even try to hide it." Throughout all this, Nathan sat quietly. He took notes on a small pad of paper but showed no emotion. This bothered Judge Blackwood. Most people would be scared in this situation, especially a teenager, but Nathan looked like he was sitting in a boring class at school. "Do you understand what's happening here?" Judge Blackwood asked Nathan. "This isn't a joke." "I understand perfectly, Your Honor," Nathan said. The judge noticed something odd about the way Nathan spoke. He didn't sound like a typical teenager. His words were chosen carefully, like someone with much more experience. "Do you have any questions for the witness?" the judge asked Nathan. "Yes, I do," Nathan said, standing up. He walked toward Agent Wilson with confidence that surprised everyone in the court. "Agent Wilson, when you searched my computer, did you follow standard evidence collection protocols?" Nathan asked. Agent Wilson looked confused. "Of course we did." "So you made a copy of the hard drive before examining it. You used write blockers to prevent contamination of evidence. You maintained proper chain of custody documentation." Agent Wilson's face changed. He looked at Mrs. Bell for help. "We followed department procedures." "That's not what I asked," Nathan said. "I asked if you followed federal evidence collection standards as established in the case of United States versus Rodriguez, which set the precedent for digital evidence handling in 2018. The courtroom went quiet. Judge Blackwood sat up straight in his chair. "How do you know about the Rodriguez case?" the judge asked. Nathan turned to face him. "I've studied law, Your Honor, studied law. You're in high school, Judge Blackwood said. Actually, I'm not, Nathan replied. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small card. He handed it to Ruth, who brought it to the judge. Judge Blackwood looked at the card, then at Nathan, then back at the card. His face showed shock and confusion. This says you're a federal agent, and that you're 29 years old. The courtroom erupted in surprised voices. Judge Blackwood banged his gavel for quiet. Explain yourself, he demanded. Nathan straightened his posture. When he spoke again, his voice was deeper and more authoritative. My name is Agent Nathan Collins. I work for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Cyber Division. I'm 29 years old, not 17. I have a law degree from Georgetown University and have been practicing law for 5 years alongside my FBI work. Mrs. Bell stood up. What is going on here? This is highly irregular. Indeed, it is, Nathan agreed. I apologize for the deception, Your Honor. I was working undercover to trace a network of hackers who have been targeting government systems. My apparent arrest was staged to build my credibility with the group. Only the highest levels of the FBI and Justice Department knew about this operation. Judge Blackwood's face turned red. And no one thought to inform this court? You've made a mockery of these proceedings. Security protocols required minimal knowledge distribution, Nathan explained. But it seems my cover is no longer needed. We arrested the real hackers last night. The judge removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. The young teenager he had been ridiculing was actually a federal agent and a lawyer. He had made a fool of himself. Court is in recess for 1 hour, Judge Blackwood announced. Agent Collins, you and Mrs. Bell will join me in my chambers immediately, and someone get me the FBI director on the phone. As they walked out, Nathan caught the judge's eye and gave a small smile. Judge Blackwood had learned an important lesson that day. Never judge someone by how they look. 1 hour later, everyone returned to the courtroom. The mood had changed. People whispered to each other and looked at Nathan with new eyes. Judge Blackwood seemed less angry, but still not happy as he took his seat. Court is back in session, the judge announced. He looked at Nathan, who now sat at the defense table wearing a visitor badge that said FBI in big letters. In light of information provided in my chambers, the charges against Agent Collins are dismissed. Mrs. Bell stood up. The prosecution withdraws all charges, Your Honor. Judge Blackwood nodded. Very well. Now, Agent Collins, perhaps you would like to explain to this court what exactly is going on. Nathan stood up. He looked different now. He stood straighter. His voice was deeper. Even his face seemed older somehow. Thank you, Your Honor. For the past 6 months, I have been working undercover to find a group of hackers who have been breaking into government systems and stealing classified information. These hackers are not in the United States. They are in other countries and hard to catch. Nathan walked to the center of the courtroom. My team created a fake identity for me as a teenage hacker. We needed the bad hackers to believe I was one of them. The FBI made fake charges against me so the hackers would trust me. And you couldn't tell this court about your plan? Judge Blackwood asked. We had to be very careful, Your Honor. If the wrong person found out, the whole operation would fail. Even your clerk and bailiff did not know. Only 3 people at the FBI knew the full plan. Judge Blackwood shook his head. And what happens now? Last night we caught the leaders of the hacking group. They thought I was sending them the files I stole. But the files had tracking code hidden in them. When they opened the files, we found them. So the case is over? The judge asked. This part is over, Nathan said. But there is more work to do. Agent Wilson, who had been a witness earlier, looked confused. So, you're not a teenager? And you didn't really hack the government? I am 29 years old, Nathan said. And yes, I did hack into the system, but with permission. I had to make it look real. A woman stood up from the back of the courtroom. She had not been there before the break. She wore a dark suit and had short gray hair. Your Honor, I am Director Susan Harper of the FBI. I can confirm everything, Agent Collins has said. We apologize for the deception, but it was necessary for national security. Judge Blackwood nodded to her. Director Harper, while I understand the need for secrecy, I do not appreciate my courtroom being used as a stage for your operations. We needed a real judge and a real courtroom, Director Harper said. If the hackers checked, everything had to look legitimate. You have a reputation for being tough but fair. That's why we chose your court. The judge didn't know whether to be flattered or annoyed. Next time, I would appreciate a heads up. There won't be a next time, Director Harper promised. This was an unusual situation. Nathan walked over to Agent Wilson and held out his hand. No hard feelings, I hope. You were just doing your job and you did it well. Agent Wilson shook Nathan's hand but still looked confused. But you look so young. How do you do that? Nathan smiled. Good genes, I guess. And some help from our makeup team. It's both a blessing and a curse in my line of work. Mrs. Bell was gathering her papers. She stopped and looked at Nathan. So you really are a lawyer? You weren't bluffing about knowing case law? Georgetown Law, class of 2018, Nathan said. I practiced at Williams & Partners for 3 years before joining the FBI. I specialized in cyber law. Mrs. Bell looked impressed. You should have been a prosecutor. We could use someone with your skills. Maybe someday, Nathan said. Judge Blackwood cleared his throat. If we're done here, I have real cases to attend to. Of course, Your Honor, Nathan said. Thank you for your understanding. As people began to leave the courtroom, a young man rushed in through the doors. He wore jeans and a t-shirt and looked out of breath. I'm too late? He asked, looking around. Nathan turned to him. Ben, what are you doing here? The young man named Ben ran up to Nathan. They told me you were arrested. I came as fast as I could. Nathan put his hand on Ben's shoulder. It's okay. It was part of the job. I'm fine. Ben looked relieved, then confused. Wait, you're in your FBI mode now? Is the operation over? Yes, we got them, Nathan said. So I can stop pretending to be your older brother? That was weird. Nathan laughed. Yes, you can stop now. Director Harper walked over to them. Agent Collins, we need to debrief you back at the office. Yes, Director, Nathan said. He turned to Ben. I'll call you later. As Nathan walked out with Director Harper, Judge Blackwood called out, Agent Collins. Nathan turned around. Yes, Your Honor. Next time you're in my courtroom, I expect you to be your real age. And wearing a proper suit. Nathan smiled. Yes, Your Honor. Outside the courthouse, reporters had gathered. They shouted questions and took pictures. Director Harper and Nathan pushed through them without answering. Your cover is blown now, Director Harper said as they got into a black car. No more undercover work for a while. That's okay, Nathan said. I think I've had enough of being a teenager again. It wasn't as fun as I remembered. The car pulled away from the curb. Nathan looked back at the courthouse. It had been a strange morning. He had fooled everyone, even the judge. But that was his job, to be someone he wasn't, to catch people who thought they were smarter than everyone else. Where to next? Nathan asked. Washington, Director Harper said. The president wants to thank you personally. Your work stopped a major security breach. Nathan nodded, but didn't say anything. He was thinking about the look on Judge Blackwood's face when he realized he had been fooled. It was a look Nathan had seen many times in his work. People never expected someone who looked young to be smart or powerful. Their mistake was judging by appearance. That was a lesson Judge Blackwood had learned today. But tomorrow there would be someone else who needed to learn it, and Nathan would be ready. The black car drove through the city streets. Nathan looked out the window, thinking about the case. He had spent 6 months pretending to be a teenage hacker. He had lived in a small apartment, eaten ramen noodles, and stayed up late playing video games to maintain his cover. Now it was over. You did good work, Director Harper said, breaking the silence. Those hackers were getting too close to our defense systems. Thank you, Nathan said. But I'm worried about the judge. He seemed pretty upset. Judge Blackwood will get over it, the director said. He's been around long enough to understand how these things work. The car stopped at a red light. A group of teenagers crossed the street in front of them. They laughed and pushed each other, carefree and young. Nathan watched them with a strange feeling. For months, he had pretended to be one of them. Now he was back to being an adult with adult problems. "We need to talk about your next assignment," Director Harper said. "Already?" "I just finished this one," Nathan replied. "The world doesn't stop for rest, Agent Collins. There's another case we need your help with." The car turned onto a wide avenue and stopped in front of a tall glass building. It wasn't the FBI office. Nathan didn't recognize it. "Where are we?" he asked. "You'll see," Director Harper said. They got out of the car and walked into the building. The security guard nodded to them and pressed a button. An elevator door opened. They got in, and Director Harper used a special key to access the top floor. When the doors opened, Nathan saw a large room with windows all around. The view of the city was amazing. In the center of the room was a round table where 5 people sat. Nathan recognized them all: the Secretary of Defense, the National Security Advisor, the CIA Director, a general, and a woman Nathan knew was in charge of cybersecurity for the country. "What is this?" Nathan whispered to Director Harper. "You're debriefing," she said. "These people want to hear directly from you about what you learned." Nathan took a deep breath and followed her to the table. Everyone turned to look at him. "Ladies and gentlemen," Director Harper said, "this is Agent Nathan Collins, the operative who infiltrated the Dark Web Collective." The Secretary of Defense stood up and shook Nathan's hand. "Impressive work, Agent Collins. Please sit down and tell us what you found." Nathan sat in the empty chair. He wasn't used to talking to such important people, but he knew his job, so he began to explain. "The Dark Web Collective is bigger than we thought," he said. "They have members in 12 countries. They're not just hackers looking for money. They want to cause chaos. They want to break systems and watch them fail." "How did they recruit you?" the cybersecurity chief asked. "They found me," Nathan explained. "I set up accounts on the dark web where I pretended to be an angry teenager who knew about computers. I posted some code that showed I had skills. They reached out to me after about 2 months." "And they believed you were a teenager?" the general asked. "Yes," Nathan said. "I had a whole fake life set up. Social media accounts going back years, school records, everything. And, well, I look young." The general nodded. He had a serious face with deep lines around his eyes. "What were they planning to do with the files they stole?" "They wanted to release them all online," Nathan said. "But first, they wanted to change some of the information to make it more damaging. They wanted to start conflicts between countries by making it look like governments were doing things they weren't actually doing." The room was quiet. Everyone understood how dangerous that could be. "Did you identify all the members?" the National Security Advisor asked. "Not all of them," Nathan admitted. "We got the leaders and about 20 others, but there are more out there. They're careful. They don't use real names or show their faces. But you've dealt them a serious blow, Director," Harper added. "The group will have to rebuild. That gives us time to find the rest." The CIA director leaned forward. "Agent Collins, we have information that suggests similar groups are forming. We need someone who understands how they work to help us stop them before they become as dangerous as the Dark Web Collective." Nathan looked at Director Harper. "Is that my next assignment?" She nodded. "If you accept, yes. No more pretending to be a teenager, I hope," Nathan said. Everyone around the table smiled. The tension in the room eased a little. "No," the CIA director said. "This time we need you to be exactly who you are, a lawyer who understands both the legal and technical sides of cybercrimes." Nathan thought about it. He was tired after his long undercover job, but he knew the work was important. "I'll do it," he said. "Good," the Secretary of Defense said. "We'll start next week. For now, go home and rest. You've earned it." The meeting ended. Nathan and Director Harper took the elevator down and walked back to the car. "You didn't tell me I'd be meeting with the National Security Council," Nathan said. "Would you have been more nervous if I had?" Director Harper asked. "Definitely. That's why I didn't tell you." They got back in the car. This time they drove to the FBI office. Nathan needed to fill out reports and tie up loose ends from his undercover work. At his desk, Nathan found a small package. There was no note, no name. He opened it carefully. Inside was a gavel like the ones judges use, but tiny. A keychain. Nathan smiled. He knew who it was from. Secret admirer? A voice asked. It was Agent Maria Lopez, who worked at the desk across from his. No, Nathan said. Just a judge with a sense of humor. The one from your case? I heard about that. The whole office is talking about how you fooled him. I was just doing my job, Nathan said. Well, your job is making you famous around here. The agent who looks like a kid but thinks like a lawyer. Nathan put the tiny gavel in his pocket. There are worse things to be known for. As he worked on his reports, Nathan thought about Judge Blackwood. The judge had been fooled, but he had also been fair. Once he knew the truth, he had helped with the case. Not all judges would have done that. Maybe someday Nathan would tell him the whole story. How the hackers had been planning something much worse than anyone knew. How the fake court case had been the only way to stop them. But for now, that information was top secret. Only the people in that room with the round table knew the whole truth. Nathan finished his work late that night. As he left the building, he looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, other hackers were plotting, other threats were growing, and he would be ready for them. 3 days later, Nathan sat at a coffee shop downtown. He wore normal clothes, jeans, a blue button-up shirt, and a light jacket. He still had a week off before his new assignment began. He had spent most of it sleeping and catching up on TV, shows he had missed while undercover. The coffee shop was busy. People came in and out, some in a hurry, others taking their time. Nathan watched them while he drank his coffee. He was good at watching people. It was part of his job. The door opened, and Judge Blackwood walked in. He was dressed casually in khaki pants and a polo shirt, very different from his court robes. He looked around until he saw Nathan, then walked over. Agent Collins, the judge said with a nod. Judge Blackwood, Nathan replied. Thank you for meeting me. The judge sat down across from Nathan. I was surprised to get your call. I thought our business was finished. Officially it is, Nathan said. This isn't about work. I wanted to thank you. Thank me? For what? I almost sent you to prison. Nathan smiled. But you didn't. And I got your gift. The gavel keychain. Judge Blackwood looked slightly embarrassed. Just a small joke. A waitress came by and the judge ordered a black coffee. When she left, he looked at Nathan more carefully. You know, without the teenage act, you still look very young for 29. No, Nathan said. When I was actually a teenager, I hated it. Now it's useful for my job. Speaking of your job, I've been wondering something. Was the whole case fake or was there a real threat? Nathan hesitated. Some things were still classified. But the judge had been part of the operation, even if he hadn't known it at the time. The threat was real, Nathan said. Very real. The hackers we caught were planning something big, something that could have hurt a lot of people. Judge Blackwood nodded slowly. I thought so. You wouldn't go to all that trouble for a small case. The waitress brought the judge's coffee. They sat in silence for a moment, each thinking his own thoughts. Can I ask you something? Nathan said finally. Go ahead. Have you ever had to pretend to be someone you're not? For your job, I mean. The judge looked surprised by the question. He took a sip of his coffee before answering. Not exactly like, you did. But in a way, yes. When I put on those robes and sit on that bench, I have to be more than just Greg Blackwood. I have to be the judge. I have to act a certain way, speak a certain way. I have to be what people expect a judge to be. Is it hard to switch back? To go from being the judge to just being Greg? Judge Blackwood thought about it. Sometimes, especially after a difficult case. My wife says I bring the judge home with me. She doesn't like it when I do. Nathan nodded. He understood. After 6 months pretending to be a teenager, I'm having trouble remembering who Nathan Collins is supposed to be. That's why you wanted to meet, the judge said. It wasn't a question. I guess so, Nathan admitted. I don't have many friends I can talk to about this. Most people at work haven't done deep cover assignments. And you thought a judge might understand the weight of wearing different faces. Something like that. Judge Blackwood leaned back in his chair. Well, for what it's worth, I think you're doing fine. The fact that you're worried about it shows you know who you really are deep down. Nathan wasn't sure if that was true, but he appreciated the words. There's something else you should know, Nathan said. The case in your court that day, it wasn't just about catching hackers, it was also a test. A test of what? Of you. The FBI and other agencies are putting together a special court to handle sensitive cyber cases. Cases that are too secret for regular courts but still need legal oversight. They wanted to see how you would react under unusual circumstances. The judge raised his eyebrows. And did I pass this test? With flying colors. You were angry about being deceived, which is normal, but you also understood why it was necessary once it was explained. That's the balance they're looking for. So my courtroom was used without my knowledge, and I was being judged while I was judging. That's quite something. The judge didn't sound angry, just thoughtful. I'm sorry about that part, Nathan said. If it helps, I was being tested too. They wanted to see if I could maintain my cover under pressure. And did you pass your test? Nathan smiled. I'm still employed, so I guess I did. They finished their coffee. Outside, the afternoon sun made the street look golden. People walked by, busy with their own lives, unaware of the two men in the coffee shop who had played roles in a secret operation. You know, Judge Blackwood said as they stood to leave, in all my years on the bench, your case was the most interesting one I've ever had. Is that a good thing? Nathan asked. It is. Most days it's just routine. Boring even. You made me pay attention. Made me think. Judges need that sometimes. They walked out of the coffee shop together. On the sidewalk, they shook hands. If they do set up this special court, the judge said, and if I'm selected, maybe we'll work together again. I'd like that, Nathan said. Next time I promise to dress appropriately and act my age. Judge Blackwood laughed. Somehow I doubt that, Agent Collins. I think you have more disguises in your future. They said goodbye and walked in opposite directions. Nathan felt better after their talk. He still wasn't sure who he was supposed to be when he wasn't pretending to be someone else. But maybe that was okay. Maybe everyone had different versions of themselves that they showed to the world. As he walked, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a text from Director Harper. Meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m., new information on next assignment. So much for his week off. Nathan sighed but found himself smiling. He was ready to get back to work, ready to be himself again, whoever that was. The next morning, Nathan arrived at FBI headquarters at 8:45 a.m. He wore a dark blue suit and a tie. He wanted to look professional for whatever new assignment they had for him. The security guard at the front desk checked his badge and waved him through. Nathan took the elevator to the 10th floor where Director Harper's office was located. As he walked down the hallway, other agents nodded to him. Some smiled. Word had spread about his undercover work, and he had earned their respect. Director Harper's assistant looked up as Nathan approached. Good morning, Agent Collins. They're waiting for you in the conference room. They? Nathan asked. He thought he was just meeting Director Harper. You'll see, the assistant said with a small smile. Nathan walked to the conference room at the end of the hall. He took a deep breath and opened the door. Inside, Director Harper sat at the head of the table. Next to her was the CIA director from the previous meeting, and at the other end of the table, wearing his full judge's robes, was Judge Blackwood. Good morning, Agent Collins, Director Harper said. Please have a seat. Nathan sat down, confused. Just yesterday he had coffee with the judge as a private meeting. Now the judge was here in an official capacity. What was going on? I believe you know everyone here, Director Harper said. Yes, Nathan replied, but I'm not sure why we're all meeting together. The CIA director spoke up. Agent Collins, your success with the Dark Web Collective has opened up new possibilities. We need to move quickly on the intelligence you gathered. Nathan nodded, still not understanding the judge's presence. Director Harper seemed to read his mind. Judge Blackwood is here because what we're planning requires judicial oversight. As you mentioned to him yesterday, we are setting up a special court for sensitive cyber cases. You moved fast, Nathan said, looking at the judge. When national security is at stake, we don't waste time, Judge Blackwood replied. He seemed different today, more formal in his robes. This was not the man from the coffee shop. This was the judge. Let me explain your new assignment, Director Harper said. She pushed a folder across the table to Nathan. Nathan opened it and found photos of 5 people. They were all young in their 20s, 3 men and 2 women. They looked like normal people. Who are they? Nathan asked. They call themselves the Phoenix Group, the CIA director said. They were part of the Dark Web Collective, but they broke away before the arrests. They're more dangerous than the others. How so? Nathan asked. The Dark Web Collective wanted to cause chaos, Director Harper explained. These people want to cause specific damage to specific targets. They believe they're fighting for justice by attacking what they see as corrupt systems. Nathan looked more closely at the photos. The people didn't look like dangerous criminals. They looked like college students or young professionals. What do they want me to do? Nathan asked. We want you to make contact with them, Director Harper said. Not undercover this time, as yourself. Nathan was surprised. As myself? Why would they talk to an FBI agent? Judge Blackwood spoke up. Because you're going to offer them a deal. A deal? Nathan was confused again. The Phoenix Group has skills we need, the CIA director explained. They've found weaknesses in our systems that we didn't know about. Instead of putting them in prison, we want to offer them jobs. You want to hire hackers who tried to attack us? Nathan couldn't believe what he was hearing. It's been done before, Director Harper said. Some of our best cybersecurity experts started on the other side of the law. These 5 are young. They made bad choices, but they're not evil. They can be turned around. And my role in this is what? Nathan asked. You're a lawyer as well as an agent, Judge Blackwood said. You'll handle the legal side. Make sure the deals are fair and binding. And as someone who has pretended to be a teenager, you might understand them better than most agents. Nathan thought about it. So I'm not going undercover? I'm just being myself? That's right, Director Harper said. Though in your case, that might be the hardest role of all. Nathan almost smiled at that. She was right. After so many months pretending to be someone else, being Nathan Collins would take some getting used to. There's one more thing, the CIA director said. One of the Phoenix Group is a young woman named Lily Green. She's their leader, and she's Judge Blackwood's niece. Nathan looked at the judge in shock. The judge's face showed no emotion, but his hands were tightly clasped on the table. Is that why you're involved in this? Nathan asked him. Partly, Judge Blackwood admitted, but I'm also the most qualified judge for this type of case. My personal connection is why I need you involved. Agent Collins, I trust you to be fair. Nathan looked back at the folder. Now he understood why this was so complicated. If the FBI arrested the Phoenix Group, Judge Blackwood's niece would go to prison for a long time. But if they made a deal, she might have. A future, will she listen to me? Nathan asked. She might, Judge Blackwood said. She's smart. Too smart for her own good sometimes, but she's not beyond reach. When do I start? Nathan asked. Today, Director Harper said. We've arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a restaurant downtown. Lily has agreed to hear our offer. Nathan closed the folder. And if she refuses? If any of them refuse? Then they'll be arrested and prosecuted, the CIA director said. This offer is their only chance to avoid prison. It's a lot of pressure to put on them, Nathan said. It's a lot of pressure to put on you too, Judge Blackwood said. Can you handle it? Nathan thought about his 6 months undercover, about the strange feeling of being himself again, about the talk he had with the judge just yesterday about wearing different faces. Yes, he said. I can handle it. Good, Director Harper said. The meeting is at 1 p.m. That gives you a few hours to prepare. As they all stood up to leave, Judge Blackwood approached Nathan. Agent Collins, he said quietly. When you meet Lily, don't tell her I'm involved. Not at first. Let her make her own choice. I understand, Nathan said. The judge nodded and left the room. The CIA director followed him. Director Harper stayed, behind with Nathan. "This is different from your last assignment," she said. "No disguise to hide behind. Just you." "Maybe that's good," Nathan said. "Maybe it's time I figured out who that is." Director Harper smiled. "I think you already know. You're the agent who gets things done, no matter how complicated they are." Nathan picked up the folder with the Phoenix Group photos. His new assignment was beginning, his strangest role yet. Himself.